Don't yet rejoice. The regime episode 6 picks up where the previous episode left off. After Herbert and Elena make their way through the underground tunnel, they wind up in a forest region. At this point, Elena is still unable to come to terms with the reality that her regime has collapsed and the Westgate rebels have overthrown her. She insists that her people, or China, will help her. However, Herbert makes it clear to her that her regime has collapsed and she has to survive in his world. Following this, Herbert takes Elena to an abandoned building. At this point, Elena tells Herbert that they could reach out to Nikki, who's in Switzerland. Unable to contain his doubts, Herbert asks Elena if she was ever going to name him as the Chancellor. Seeing that Herbert is fuming, Elena assures him that she is loyal to him. Does Tomas help Elena? Following this, we learn that the Westgate rebels are searching for Elena and her party members. At this point, we witness Herbert and Elena seeking help from a drunken man named Tomas. Tomas presents himself as Elena's loyalist and agrees to help them. We see that Herbert doesn't trust Tomas. However, Elena trusts that he'll keep them safe and declares her love for him and her people. After a car ride, Tomas takes Herbert and Elena to his home. Once they get into his home, he locks them from outside and calls security to arrest them. He then tells Elena how he truly feels about her and her regime. At this point, Elena panics and attempts to kill herself. However, Herbert calms her down and tells her not to tell the security anything. Why does Elena surrender to the rebels? Soon after, the security team arrives, and we learn that Laskin is heading the team. He reveals that the Westgate rebels have dissolved Parliament. Furthermore, the National Freedom Front has assumed control and overthrown Elena's regime. We then see Laskin attempting to turn Elena and Herbert against each other as a way to get them to confess. However, they have a strong bond. To make matters worse for him, Elena sees right through him and claims that the Freedom Front can't hold on to power without her confession, which is why he hasn't killed her already. We then see Elena insult Laskin and refuse to confess anything. Soon after, Laskin threatens Elena with mold, and she immediately gives in and agrees to do anything he says, including coming clean to her people on live television. Who saves Elena and her regime? Laskin and his men then appear, escorting Elena and Herbert. At this point, a bunch of soldiers show up and shoot Laskin and his men. After this, they take Elena into their vehicle and drive away. Elena, unable to comprehend the situation, remains perplexed. After a short journey, Elena is taken to a hotel. We observe that they are taking Herbert and Elena in separate directions. After this, Elena finds Emil Bartas waiting for her. At this point, it is clear that Emil is representing the Americans and making a case on their behalf. Emil tells Elena about the civil war that's going on, and the only way out of it for her is to make a deal with the devil, the Americans. He tells her that the Americans would like Elena to stay in power, but things have to resume the way they previously were, including matters with the cobalt deal. Furthermore, Emil asks Elena to get rid of Herbert. At this point, Elena refuses to do so. Does Elena betray Herbert? Following this, Elena meets Herbert, who's waiting for her. She goes on to tell him about the offer Emil made her. He suspects that she accepted the deal. However, she tells him that she hasn't accepted the deal yet. Following this, she proposes that they do as they say, and once they are in control, they can stand up against the Americans again and work for the country, as Herbert always wanted. After this, Elena and Herbert declare their love for each other and fall asleep together. When Herbert wakes up the following morning, someone shoots him dead immediately. The scene then switches to the future, and we see Elena in her position as Chancellor, like before. We learn that it's Victory Day, and Elena is prepared to address her people. However, this time Elena seems different and a bit more grounded. We then see Nikki question Elena about the rough year they've had, and she responds by saying that she had a wobble. Following this, Elena addresses her people, and this time she speaks against the Chinese and the traitors within the palace. After this, she pays a visit to the mausoleum that once housed her late father's corpse. At this point, we learn that she has kept Herbert there, and she pays her respects to him by offering him flowers, and the season comes to a close. The episode review. In the 6th episode, Herbert and Elena are confronted with a number of challenges, some of which include the Westgate rebels, Tomas, and Laskin. Despite the fact that Herbert goes to great lengths for Elena, he ultimately finds himself betrayed. After striking a deal with the devil, Elena goes ahead and takes over as chancellor. Nevertheless, Herbert is the one who ends up paying the ultimate price. The episode ties all the loose ends of the season together. After everything that has happened in the past 2 episodes, the semi-final segment of the episode is truly shocking. It seemed as though Elena truly loved Herbert. On the other hand, bearing in mind that Elena has consistently prioritized her own needs throughout the entirety of the season, this is a plausible ending. The plot of the show retains its ability to be captivating, exciting, and enjoyable. However, one significant flaw of the season is that it is far too vague for its own good. This results in confusion and even weakens the severity of the blows. Aside from that, the actors have delivered outstanding performances as the season has progressed. Even minor characters like Emil and Laskin are outstanding. In the event that the show is brought back for a 2nd season, it will be fascinating to watch how Elena will govern her nation and the people who live there under the American's thumb.